Hi everyone, I'm Katie McLean and I'm the CEO of Tusk Hub. And today I'd like to welcome Angela Podolsky, I got that right, to talk about trust as part of the growth movement. Welcome, Angela. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward for our conversation. About myself, so my name is Angela Podolsky. I'm the founder of kinesics.com, and I work with companies in helping them better understand how they communicate and then how to read others. That may be in boardrooms, presentation skills. Very often I have sales teams that come to me that they want to improve and build more credibility, build more trust, being more authentic, and just understand what is that they're giving off as well.
Oh, that's really interesting. So from the nonverbal side of things, how do you build trust through nonverbal communication? How does that work?
Well, we're all communicating, right? All the time. And most of the time we're communicating non-verbally. At a basic level, we have 5 channels of communication, which is verbal content, verbal style, face, body, and tone. That's a basic level. We're always communicating. So the verbal content, the words themselves are actually very small percentage of our communication. And that comes back from our being years back when we're hunting, or when we look even today at our children, right? If you have kids, you looked at our kids, you and I, waiting for a child to tell you, I'm hungry, change my diapers, or other stuff, you looking for their nonverbal, or when they took a candy that they're not supposed to eat, right? So nonverbal communication is a big part of our communication, and unfortunately, it's not being taught in schools or university. And I wish it would be, because that also will help us with cross cultures, because nonverbal communication is different between cultures.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah, I was thinking, in terms of whether it makes sense if you look at someone in the eyes versus you don't. Like, I was always taught that when you shake someone's hand, you should look them in the eye.
Right.
But that's not always the right thing to do with certain cultures, is it?
That's right, 100%. Some cultures, looking in the eye is, oh, the person is confident. You can trust them. They know what they're talking about. All of those things. In other cultures, actually showing respect is not giving your eye contact. So imagine being in the boardroom and you have those 2 people sitting in front of each other. One is trying to create intense eye contact, and the other is actually not creating eye contact because they're showing them respect. And,
Right.
and there's that conflict. So understanding nonverbal communication, there are 2 people usually communicating at the basic. One is the one speaking, and the one giving the messages, and then there's the opposite hand, which is the receiver, right? So when you are speaking, you need to be aware of what messages you are giving and understand, are they congruent or not, because that will affect trust a lot, and I'll get into it in a second. And the second part is, when you are a receiver, then understanding how to read others, because very often most people not being taught how to properly read others. And what happens? They bring in their bias to the table. They're bringing their culture to the table. And then actually the reading is incorrect. And then trust is not built, relationships are not built, business is lost, etc. So it's really important that you understanding what you're giving, and as well how to read others properly.
That makes a lot of sense. And I could see that between different cultures, and I could see that between men and women in the way that they carry themselves, their mannerisms, and so forth. Could really make a difference.
Yeah. And you know what? The thing is, when there's incongruencies, what happens that our amygdala, the person that is observing. So for an example, if I'm speaking to somebody and I'm incongruent in some way, shape, or form, can be linguistically, non-linguistically, and the person observing feeling there's something is off, they don't have to be a nonverbal expert, but usually people have a good intuition to say, okay, something is off. And what happens is that the amygdala is taking over, and there's the fight, flight, and hide mechanism. And when people are getting to that, there's no building trust. And we have to have trust. We build businesses to make sure that our clients can trust us. Bankers wear blue. The logos on a lot of banks are blue because blue is the color of trust. People spend a lot of money, a lot of resources on working on trust within their business and their organization, because that's how you create good relationship. And with good relationship, you create good sales, good collaborations, etc. Right? So understanding how you're coming across and what are the messages you're giving, and if you're congruent or not, is very important, because you don't want the amygdala of the other person will turn off and say, oh, something is off. I should be careful.
I'm going to be thinking about amygdala now, but so I guess what you're saying is you need trust to build business growth. That's a key.
You have to have trust. Think about it. We all looking for trust. Think when we're kids, or if you have animals, they come to you because they say, oh, I can trust you. So I'll come to you when I'm scared. I'll come to you when I have something. So when there is trust, when that is built, then you will be the person that people will come to you or will collaborate with you. And that trust has to be authentic, because if it's not authentic, incongruency will happen. So with authenticity, you need to understand that trust is almost the bread and butter for any relationship, may it be business relationship, personal relationship, or other.
That makes a lot of sense. And so when you go in, I know you go in and teach sales organizations how to leverage body language, or to be aware of their body language, to build more business. What are the key things that you communicate to them or teach them?
So many, so many.
Maybe the top three.
We need another hour for this. I think if I have to give one that as a tip, people should pay attention more on themselves and what are the messages they are giving, if they're congruent, and understanding where the biases they bring to the table first, and not focus on reading others. Because if you're not an expert, or if you didn't take, you don't have to be an expert, but if you didn't take the right courses of how to read others, very often, and probably 99.9% that you're reading is wrong. Therefore, if you're focused on yourself, understanding, okay, I'm not showing my palm of your hands. Now with COVID, it's even more. Now with the cameras, what are the nonverbal I'm showing, or nonverbal I'm not showing? How do I build? How do I show up? That will make a massive difference automatically. So don't focus about the other person, focus on yourself first. And then you can go and learn how to read others as well.
I could talk to you hours and hours about this. I mean, understanding how people, I guess I automatically want to go and understand how the other person's feeling. But your point is well taken, in that you really have to show up well yourself and build the trust to be able to even understand the signals that you're getting. So in closing, I guess, building trust can lead to company growth, can lead to long-term relationships. Do you have any examples of that when you've gone in and taught someone how to do that, or any anecdotes at all about how building trust led to a great outcome?
You know, very often my clients come to me and they say, you know what, Angela, I changed this gesture, or I did this, which was very different than the previous gestures that I would give, or the previous places that I'll take seat at the table. And just by changing that, their closed business so much faster, because the trust is built so much faster. Just by changing where your center is pointing, just understanding if you talking with your palms up or palms down, those little things, are you hiding your hands under the table? Those little gestures will make a massive difference, because if a person sees that you're open and authentic and real, and that's the importance, when trust happens, it has to be authentic and real,
Yeah.
then the sky's the limit. When there's trust, everything is there. When there's no trust, it's hard to build.
I 100% agree with you, Angela. Thank you so much for joining us today. I learned a lot, and I'm curious to learn even more. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay.